Good morning. Today I want to talk about this electric car grant money thing. Now, I put this on the channel last week. The government are planning to spend £703 million, I think it was, of taxpayer money to help people buy expensive cars, which makes a lot of sense, but that's the way the world is in 2025. Now, it's come out that, well, let's just look at it. This is from Autocar. Car makers can self-register EVs and get paid the government grant. Loopholes in the UK's new electric car grant could unnecessarily boost fleet sales. So pre-registering cars has been a practice that has gone on since, well, forever. What the dealer does is they get to the end of the month and the sales manager says how many, well, it's not the sales manager, but basically it works in multiple ways. You pre-register a car and then you can log it as a sale, even though the car is not sold. When a car is brand new, it shouldn't have any owners on the logbook. So what the dealer might do is register it to the dealership. Therefore, the dealership becomes the first owner of the car, which then classes as a sale. And then the dealer can sell it as a pre-owned car. And then they get two sales for the one car. They get the one sale when the car was new, and then they get a sale now that it's pre-owned. Pretty confusing, but it's basically window dressing of the accounts. It's gone on forever, but now what they're saying is car makers are going to be able to self-register eligible electric cars, and then they will receive the government's electric car grant. So if the government is giving £3,750 off of a car and the car is £15,000, the dealer themselves can pre-register that car. They can effectively pocket the £3,750, and then they can put it on the forecourt at what, £12,000, £11,000, however much it is. And then the new buyer, the customer, thinks they've got a deal, not realizing that that was the price anyway, because chances are with an electric car, you can walk in and offer cash and pay pretty much whatever you like because they're desperate to get rid of them. Though through the likes of demonstrators, employee vehicles sold through employee car ownership schemes, and even press demonstrator vehicles, car makers will receive up to £3,750 from the ECG purse, the electric car grant purse, so long as the Office for Zero Emission Vehicles is informed. A Department for Transport spokesperson has confirmed with Autocar. Such a practice would be a huge boost in helping car makers with EVs eligible for the grant to be compliant with the government's ZEV mandate, the zero emission vehicle nonsense that says that, manufacturers must sell a certain amount of zero emission vehicles, zero emission being a complete misnomer because they've come across the ocean on a great polluting dirty cargo ship, notwithstanding the fact that that's only if it hasn't burnt down and sunk down to the bottom of the sea, polluting the ocean and all the animals. Net zero. And then they can avoid fines for non-compliance. While self-registrations have always counted towards the mandate, the fact that car makers will now get the public money for the practice is surprising. I'm not surprised. Are you surprised? At face value, the loophole undermines, at the very least, the spirit of the electric car grant, which was seemingly introduced with the goal of boosting sales of EVs to private buyers, and is one of a number of issues that Autocar has brought to the government's attention. In response to a series of questions highlighting potential loopholes in the new electric car grant, which was introduced with little warning last week, yes, £700 million of taxpayers' money. There's definitely better places you could spend that. The government rejected suggestions that it unfairly offers public money to fleet buyers and company car drivers who don't need any extra encouragement to make the switch. So it's fleet buyers as well, which seems strange because you'd think that it would be only for private buyers. Private sales have typically made up only 1 in 5 EV sales, and repeated calls for subsidies from the automotive industry since the introduction of the mandate last year have focused on helping to stimulate sales in this area of the market in order for car makers to keep up with the growth in electric car sales that the mandate requires. Let me translate that for you. Private buyers are not buying EVs at anything like the rate that the government thought that they would when they introduced the zero emission vehicle mandate. Early adopters of EVs, people went out and bought them. Yeah, this is great. This is saving me loads of money in petrol. This is great for the planet, right? We've run out of those people now. What they're trying to do now is they're trying to get normal people to go and buy EVs. But normal people have been watching YouTube videos and reading newspaper articles, and they just don't like the idea of owning an electric car. it's very hard to then get one of those people to buy an electric car because you can't incentivize them with, say, taxing your salary like you can with the company car scheme. So if you're a company car driver, even if you absolutely hate the idea of owning an electric car, at the end of the day, if the electric car is going to cost you £80 a month and a petrol variant is going to cost you £400 a month, and you're not paying the fuel bill, you're only looking at what is in your salary, you're going to have the electric car every time. Especially, that wasn't a fart, that was the seat. Especially if you're a company van driver, because having that electric van means you then get to spend 3 hours a day drinking coffee, scrolling on your phone while you wait for your crappy electric van to charge. Hope I explained that correctly. Meanwhile, fleet EV sales have long been incentivised through favourable benefit-in-kind tax rates, like I just said, that make them financially advantageous to a majority of company car buyers. These incentives have driven most of the growth in the EV market to date. That means that company car drivers who are propping up the economy by driving around the country are now being paid to have cars that are electrically charged and only have 300 miles range, when previously they were in Skoda Superb diesels that did 70 miles to the gallon. Yeah, make it make sense. However, the electric car grant is available to fleet buyers as well as private buyers, allowing public money to be used to help EV buyers. Just listen to that sentence. Public money being used to help EV buyers. Even that sentence on its own is just insane, isn't it? The government is paying people to have more expensive cars. Brilliant. The government is committed to supporting all consumers who would like to purchase an electric vehicle, whether that's privately or through financing agreements such as leases, said the spokesperson after Autocar raised this particular point. It has also emerged that the electric car grant, this is interesting, has no minimum retention period after a customer has taken delivery of a car, potentially allowing them to flip the car for a profit should a model be in demand. Now, that is unlikely, and I know you're expecting me to tear that to shreds and say, isn't it hilarious that they're implying that you can go buy an electric car from a dealer, get your £3,750 grant, put it on Facebook Marketplace for full price and pocket £3,750 because electric cars don't work that way, they're not that valuable. However, we are starting to see some electric cars that people actually like. Renault 5. So it could be that if you've got a Renault, if there is an electric car that comes out that there is, you know, an initial flurry of demand for, like the Renault 5, and when the Alpine version comes out, maybe it's made in lower numbers, you buy one, you get the electric car grant, you get the money off the list price, and then you can flip it for a profit because there's no minimum retention period. That means they're not saying you've got to keep it for 3 years. The Department for Transport spokesman also confirmed that unlike car makers, dealers won't be able to pre-register EVs and receive the grant, as it's only paid at the point the vehicle is delivered to a named customer, though clearly now with the exception of car makers themselves. Oh, right. So the dealer would have to, the Ford dealer, for example, would have to register the car to Ford, either as an employee car or a demonstrator or a press car. That is interesting. The spokesperson also denied that requirements to access the electric car grant are discriminatory against car makers from certain countries, or that it was designed to encourage more local manufacture of EVs. Why is he denying that? That's the way it should be. The qualification criteria are based on the emissions of a country rather than the operations and manufacturing plant of the car itself. This means EVs made in China, South Korea and Japan are likely to be excluded, together with those from Poland, due to the reliance on fossil fuels in the energy production of these countries. They're making this up as they go along. According to the Telegraph, China has already said that ECG violates World Trade Organization rules about non-discriminatory trading. China, if you're not happy, just send a nuke. It's understood we're about there anyway. Politicians from other countries whose EVs have been excluded have also written to the government or plan to write to them. The spokesperson is saying that all manufacturers are being treated equally. The government is confident the scheme is in keeping with its international obligations and will continue to work with our partners internationally to support the zero-emission vehicle transition. The government does not... Yeah, interesting. I think that we're getting to the end of that now. The government's confident that all manufacturers have the tools they need to comply. comply. They didn't address a related point that car makers denied the electric car grant would have to restrict sales of popular combustion-powered models in order to artificially inflate their proportion of EV sales. I'm sorry you can't buy the petrol version until next month because we've hit our quota, is what that's saying. While no changes are expected in the short term, what was a surprise announcement for car makers last week, the electric car grant will be kept under review and it will evolve as the market does. A Department for Transport spokesperson added and said it welcomed feedback from car makers as a part of this. What's that document? Oh no, that's a confirmation for a family room in a hotel for next week, but I'm not telling you where we're going or what we're up to yet. So there you have it, the electric car grant, which is £700 million of our money that could be better spent on, well, pretty much anything. Let me know in the comments what would be a better way to spend £700 million of taxpayers' money in a country that's absolutely on its knees, is too busy financing the national debt and fresh visitors from overseas to actually look after the people that live here. And yet they've got £700 million to encourage more people to buy cars that they don't need, that are more expensive than they have to be. Well, I don't know if that video was any good. Let me know if you made it to the end of the video. Let me know what you're doing this weekend. And let me know a basic list of checks and things that you would take with you if you were driving a 30-year-old car on a long road trip. What would you be checking over this weekend, and what would you have in a box in the back of emergency stuff to take with you? A charger, a big battery. No, it's a diesel, so it should do the whole thing on 2 tanks of fuel. Thanks for watching.